Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I've got a really fun transformation for you. I picked up these two completely ruined bedside tables and most people would have just thrown them away, but of course I saw their potential. They were scratched, stained, and honestly so sad, but I knew with a bit of TLC I could bring these back to life. So in this video, I'm going to show you the process of restoring and completely transforming these tables into something elegant, timeless, and truly beautiful. So let's get started. I decided to switch things up with these tables. One of the tops was completely ruined, like beyond saving. So to keep them looking like a proper pair, I had to ditch both of them. And that meant I couldn't keep the original structure, and instead of trying to salvage the nook section, I figured why not simplify and turn them into clean 2-drawer units. To avoid making this video super repetitive, I only filmed the process of one bedside table, but don't worry, I did the exact same thing on both. With that plan in mind, I started by removing the damaged tops, and then I took off the legs, which were also in very rough shape. One of them even looked like it had been chewed on, perhaps by a dog. Some legs were okay, but not worth the effort to fix them all. I'll hang on to them for a future project, but for this one I'll be swapping in some fresh new legs. I then removed the back panel, which left me with a basic shell to work with, and from here the transformation could finally begin. I started by measuring out exactly where I needed to cut, then grabbed my circular saw and trimmed off the excess on both sides. And once that was done, I moved on to the back panel. I pulled all of the nails out and I cut it down to its new size and set it aside for later. Next up was stripping off the old finish. I tried sanding it off first, but quickly realized that that would have taken me all day. So I switched to paint stripper. I let it sit, do its thing, and then I scraped it all off. Whatever top coat was on these tables was very stubborn, so I had to go in with a second round. And after the final scrape, I gave it a good sand with 120 grit, 180 grit, and finished with a smooth 240 grit. I repeated the whole process for all three of the sides. Next up, I'm adding some trim around the top of the tables to cover up the exposed, ugly MDF edge. I thought about using edge banding, but honestly, I wanted something with a bit more character, and this trim is definitely giving it an extra touch. I cut each piece to size, I glued them on, and I used some tape to hold everything in place while it was drying.
You take me there, you make me better. When I hold your hand, I leave the ground. Hey.
Once the glue had dried, I went in with a chisel and some sanding to remove any of the excess glue.
Promise me, you said forever. Now it's you and me against the world. You and I.
Now it is time for one of my favourite parts, adding some colour. I went in with a deep chocolate brown stain, which is kind of my go-to for furniture. Firstly, I love it. Second, it matches everything in my house. And third, it sells. In fact, I've listed these tables on Marketplace for $250 and I actually had a buyer within 15 minutes. So yeah, it's safe to say the colour is a solid choice. Once the stain had dried, I followed up with some wood wax. I actually ran out of my usual hard wax oil, but I had this on hand and figured I'd make do rather than run to the shop. Either way, it gives a great finish and does the job.
Now it's you and me against the world. You and I.
And now I can circle back to the drawers. I stripped off the finish, went in with my orbital and got them ready for stain. And now I can reinstall the back panel. I didn't do anything to it, I just cut it down to the right size and called it a day. Since it's at the back, I just didn't think it was necessary to sand or stain it. Next up, it is time to install the new handles. I didn't have a ton of options here because one of the drawer sets originally had knobs and the other one had handles, which meant I was dealing with mismatched holes, and I don't really like filling old hardware holes. It's so hard to get them to completely disappear, so I always try to either reuse them or cover them up completely. Luckily, I had exactly 4 of these beautiful handles on hand, and they just so happened to cover all the existing holes perfectly. It was meant to be, because once they were on, they looked absolutely stunning. And lastly, I installed the new legs. I originally had some other legs picked out and I did install them on one of the tables. I'll insert a pic. But they just looked terrible and they didn't suit the table at all. So I went back to the shop and I grabbed these, which I loved. And just like that, these 2 ruined tables have been completely transformed. I'm so happy with how they turned out. Elegant, functional, and saved from landfill. If you enjoyed this transformation, don't forget to give a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already. I've got plenty more DIYs and furniture flips coming your way. Thanks so much for hanging out with me today. I'll catch you guys in the next one.